everyone, this is David from UCM again, and I am here with a very special guest. Now, this lady is a very special guest because I am about to introduce you to a witch, real witch, like a witch for life. Not a witch for the weekend. This is a witch for life. So, ladies and gentlemen who are watching this broadcast, I would like to introduce you to Donna Kruger. Now, I met Donna Kruger when I was traveling to a very remote part of Canada. I wouldn't say very remote, but it's pretty remote. And I was looking for Angelica, and I couldn't find it in the entire city of Toronto. Okay, so I ended up in, I mean, all the big name stores didn't have it. So I ended up in this remote part of Canada, and I saw this little store called the Broom Closet. Like, that's the name of Donna's store, the Broom Closet. She's sitting in a store right now. And we went in, and not only did I get my Angelica, I also got to sing along with an old 70s song with Donna and the people who were in there. So, first of all, I'm going to let Donna introduce herself, and then we're going to get into a very in-depth discussion on witchcraft, which I'm going to just break away and show you guys a short film. But Donna, introduce yourself first of all.
Good morning, David. Thank you for having me. I typically describe myself as an eccentric, syncretic conjure woman and head hag at the broom closet. Some of the things that I'd like, I don't know where to go from there. I've been practicing witchcraft probably my whole entire life, but didn't realize what I was doing until I was in my late 20s. And then I read something, saw something, and I just went, aha, that's what I am. That's what I do. That's what I'm able to do. Everybody is capable of magic, just so that you know. Everybody has magic in them. And everybody is able to cast spells, manifest. The Catholic religion calls that a miracle. In my practice, that's manifestation. I don't know where to go from here now, David.
Oh no, I will. I will take you to different places. What I all right, so Donna, what I typically do is that I usually show a short film, which I'm going to share with you right now. If you can see it on your iPad, and then we're going to start the conversation. How's that?
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay, this is going to be hilarious.
She was my first love witch.
For many people, this is what the mind conjures up when we think about witchcraft. But what you may not know is that witchcraft is on the rise. Some 1.5 million Americans identify as Wiccan or pagan. And since 2016, Google searches for spell casting have increased fourfold.
I would say that I'm just a dabbler. I do have some beliefs and superstitions that I carry with me.
Elizabeth Bergseth wouldn't call herself a witch, but she is interested in magic, and she's not alone. More than any other age group, witchcraft has cast its spell on millennials and Gen Z.
This is very appealing to young people because young people are testing all kinds of boundaries.
You can find witchy influencers with thousands of followers on Instagram. And a subsection of TikTok called Witch Talk has more than 5 billion views. But what do we mean when we talk about witchcraft?
To anthropologists, witchcraft is a belief system in which certain members of society are believed to have the ability to cause harm to others through supernatural means.
That's the first of 3 key definitions. The second dates back to the Middle Ages when witches were seen as devil worshippers working against Christianity. And finally, witchcraft is a religious movement that arose in the 1950s, referring to Wicca and its offshoots. In other periods in recent history, witchcraft has surged in popularity, the 70s, for example. The Vietnam War was raging, prompting opponents to take to the streets. A second wave of feminism washed over North America, and it was the start of a burgeoning environmental movement. Now, as they did in the 70s, young people feel the future is under threat, and it is during times of crisis so many turn to the mystical.
We can see that threat You can see it all over the world, in fires, in rising sea levels, in changing climate. And so once again, we are in a period in which especially young people feel that their future is in jeopardy, because it is.
Add to that a pandemic. Faced with such uncertainty, magic offers a way to take back some control.
Witches are the ultimate feminists because they are taking control of their life, their destiny, and the power that the universe has to offer to them. And they're not letting anyone else determine their destiny, basically.
Groups including WITCH, this feminist group last active in the 70s, are back in business, and social media has helped witchcraft spread like wildfire.
Once you have dedicated sites on social media where these things spread, you can, a legend, a rumor, a conspiracy theory can go around the world and reach hundreds of thousands of viewers in just a few seconds.
But the real magic of witchcraft is that it makes people feel a little more powerful.
Okay, I think we've seen enough. I think we've seen enough. We are so going to deconstruct everything there. First of all, the expert which they brought on is really not an expert in witchcraft, is she?
No, not at all. When I'm dabbling, yeah.
Right, Duffy? Right.
A little bit pregnant.
Okay. All right. So let's get into the first thing. The first thing, there were many problems in the definitions of witchcraft that were being put forward there. So I'm gonna throw them at you, and then we're going to deconstruct them. First of all, in that short film, they described witchcraft as a feminist movement. Is that true, Donna?
It is absolutely untrue. Everybody, we have male witches come up. It's not just for women. I mean, typically in the old days, especially if you're practicing the old ways, not the new ways, which would be the Wiccan Gardnerian, the fairly recent paths that have been introduced to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, it was the women that were the healers and the knowledge keepers of the herbs and they grew the gardens, because the men were the hunters and gatherers.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed at home and took care of the hearth and home. However, there are also very, very many men who are absolute powerful witches, and there are some paths that will make the distinction between a witch and a warlock as the male aspect of the witch, but it's not. A witch is a witch is a witch, no matter your gender.
Oh, you mean a male witch is not a wizard? Oh, don't give that away.
I mean, there are sorceresses. However, a witch is a witch is a witch, no matter which way you look at it.
Yes, correct. Correct. I actually put out an esoteric quiz for people to fill out. You'd be surprised the number of people who got what a male witch is called wrong. And they've been practicing witchcraft for 5 years, right? So
the whole warlock thing started with Bewitched on television. That's when it came to the forefront of the brain, right? No, it's not. We don't go around twitching our noses, and no, men are not warlocks. I mean, if that's the tag you choose to use, absolutely do. But it's not. It's a witch is a witch is a witch. I'm just leaving it there.
Okay, that's as simple as it gets. The second deconstructive argument I want to throw at you is that witchcraft are for people who are insecure and have no power, and magic and witchcraft are a way of them regaining their power.
To some degree, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It is, it is empowering, especially when you see your manifestations come to fruition, right? It's that empowerment. It is absolutely taking back what was taken from you, right? And I'm stuttering now because
it really does affect you, doesn't it, Donna?
I mean, to some degree, it is true, but it is also providing a sense of security. Again, especially if somebody is feeling really dismissed, right? It gives you the confidence, right? Because witchcraft is about your self-confidence and believing in yourself, right? Believing in what you can do, what you're able to manifest in your world, right? So that, again, that aspect is to some degree true.
Okay. The next thing I'm going to throw at you, which was a sort of subtle sideline that was put inside there. It was that witchcraft is something that people use to harm people specifically.
No, it is not. Witchcraft is nature-based. I mean, I'm not above throwing a hex when it's necessary, but that's not the main basis of witchcraft. Witchcraft is, making sure that people are well, making sure your loved ones are safe, making sure the world stays, that we can heal the earth. Working with plants. I mean, you're planting flowers, you're planting herbs, so you're working with nature at its very basic. Okay, so there are other subtle sort of innuendos thrown into this thing, like witchcraft is something that young people get into so that they could wear makeup and cool clothes and put piercings and stuff. So the subtle innuendo that was put there was that witchcraft is a path for freaks. Is that correct? Absolutely not. You would be surprised the number of people that come into my shop that are your mainstream people: lawyers, doctors, police people, fire people, teachers. I've had Christian clergy come into my shop who are practicing witchcraft. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Look, that's for another show. Oh, we're gonna have to discuss the Christianity aspect. But let's get into this. What are the paths of magic? Like, a lot of people don't know what the singular rule of witchcraft is, and that has led to a lot of misinformation about people flying around on brooms and burning babies in cauldrons and whatever else weird stuff that people come up with. I don't understand how people come up with this stuff. Like, nobody flying around on brooms and burning babies in cauldrons, especially if they're cute. No, kids are too wiggly. But anyway, tell us about this. It was all media based, and again, it was at the rise of Christianity, demonizing what we do because it didn't fall in the path of Christianity, correct? Because we were able to heal each other, help the crops grow better, give good advice, help women who were in childbirth and having difficult time. It was all about helping people, and actually the whole ideology of witchcraft wasn't, I mean, my great-great-grandmother never called herself a witch. She was the local herbalist. She was the one that if you had a bellyache, you went to her to get whatever it was you needed to fix your bellyache. If your cow stopped giving milk, she knew what herbs, what grasses to feed them to encourage the milk again. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it was natural. There were no labels. It's the label that is the problem. The whole word, the whole thing about witchcraft, and again, it was demonized by Christianity because we went against, and this is something that, where was I? Where did I actually have a note about that. Take your time. Well, let's just start by saying that Wicca is the religion and witchcraft is the vocation. Not all witches are Wiccan and not all Wiccans are witches. Wicca has a basic tenet that do what you will but harm none. And correct. And that to me is, sort of says it all right there. Like, do whatever you want, like, be you, do what you do, but don't harm anybody. Right. Although, and again, I'm gonna, have, and this, somebody who's just starting out may not want to do this because you have to really know what you're doing, being able to balance the light and the dark, right? So every good witch needs to know how to throw a hex or a curse in order to reverse it if if she's presented or they're presented with it, right? So somebody comes into the shop and says, I think somebody's hexed me or somebody's cursed me. I need to know what happened, what the physical results are, so that I can give them direction how to get rid of it, how to cleanse it, right? So I have to be familiar with it. And again, if somebody is harming vulnerable and then at-risk people, I'm the first person to step up to help them.
Understood.
Right.
And you see, this is why I actually like the construct of witchcraft, because there's a balance of light and dark. There,
Yes.
and I think that's part of the reason why you guys became very, very unpopular with Christianity, because the premise of Christianity is that you remove all the dark and become completely into the light. But the truth of the matter is, nature doesn't work that way. If it did, you'd have lions running around drinking milk out of saucers.
Well, or it would be daylight all the time.
Point well taken. Point well taken. Nature doesn't operate that way. And to get people to move out of their natural environment was always a position of control. They're all trying to climb the ladder to that impossible goal that they know they will never get to before they die.
Absolutely.
And witchcraft talks about the balance. So let's get into the belief system of witchcraft. Does witchcraft believe in reincarnation?
Some do. I mean, it just depends on the path that you're following. And again, there are no hard and fast rules in witchcraft. You're free to believe whatever you want to believe. It's all what feels right to you, right? At this point, I do believe in reincarnation. I also believe that, where was I going with that thought? But it's about what you want to believe, right? Like I incorporate Christianity in my practice because my ancestors were Catholic. I incorporate some Buddhist philosophy in my practice because it feels right. Although I'm not all fluffy bunny, right? I know there's darkness there, and I again, there's that negative aspect of darkness, right? There's and I don't know how to articulate. There's nastiness. There are people that want to harm others, right? Be it through greed, jealousy, what have you, right? But practicing at night, because I love the moonlight, right? So that light envelops me. And part of the scenario of witchcraft is that the sun is a male entity, and the moon is feminine. So so there's that balance again with light and dark. The male and female balance.
Yeah, on that subject, I wanted to actually do a sort of cross belief system awareness. So in Christianity, people don't believe that they have rituals, but that's absolutely untrue. If you are Catholic and you observe the Holy Eucharist, that would be a ritual. If you are taking the blood and body of Christ into your mouth, that is called transubstantiation. That is a ritual.
Absolutely.
So I don't know where this comes from.
Grace at a meal is a ritual.
There we go. Saying grace at a meal is a ritual. Transubstantiation specifically is a ritualistic practice involving spellcraft.
Absolutely, it is.
And so I don't know why people tend to think that these witches, they're chanting whatever they're chanting, are the bad people. Please help me understand this, Donna, because I've never been able to understand, and I know lots of witches all over the world.
And I again, it's because we were demonized, right? So whatever witches do is wrong. It's bad. It's evil. It's going to be, it's going to end up with you burning in hell. That's another thing. Witches don't believe in hell.
But you believe in a cauldron.
I believe in a cauldron. I absolutely do. I mean, heaven and hell, again, we're Christian constructs, right?
Yeah, it was, for sure.
It's like, so if you don't, it's like, if you don't follow my rules, you will be punished.
Badly, right? For the rest of eternity. Your soul burning in hell for the rest of eternity.
Absolutely.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's actually, honestly, when I get into arguments with Christians, and I do that frequently, I'm actually thinking about making a show where I just talk to Christians about their belief system. When I talk to Christians, this is what usually comes up, that all these metaphysical people, esoteric people will burn in hell. So I'm like, is there a time limit? Um, for all eternity, for all eternity. And I'm like, okay, so you're worshiping the guy that takes people and burns them for all eternity. Like, you mean all eternity? Like it doesn't stop? Um, wow, that can't be right, right? I mean, stop for those of you who are watching this broadcast and probably judging, David, you're consorting with witches. Yes, absolutely. I go to Donna's shop whenever I get the chance. Okay, so for those of you who are talking, thinking and judging and so on, let me explain to you. Let's do a little bit of a judgment analysis right now. Burning for all eternity? Like, who thinks of this stuff? Right? I come.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna. Comment on that for me.
I was going to say was that, the Bible itself, right? The Bible. How do we know that what's written there isn't a personal bias of whoever translated those passages?
Oh, I'm quite sure that it is. I don't know. Something about immaculate conception, that kind of suggests a personal bias. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like a lot of that, like even the burning in hell, is that not a personal bias?
It is very much a personal bias. And who thinks of, very dysfunctional people actually think of that, and even more dysfunctional people believe in that and advocate it to young children growing up and telling them, yo, you're going to burn in hell for the rest of eternity, forever and ever. Can you imagine uttering this stuff to a child?
How traumatizing is that? Like, how traumatizing is that to a child?
Especially one that has gotten burnt at least once.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think a lot of this stuff comes from a little bit of sociopathology in religious leaders.
Yes, absolutely.
They believe that scaring the bejesus out of people keeps them in line, and it's a matter of domination and control.
And again, a control. It is a method of control, right? Not allowing people to think for themselves, to have autonomy.
Yes, to have autonomy. And that would be a bad thing, because if they have autonomy, they do weird and evil things like cast spells. Like Donna, for sure, I know if we were living back in the day, you would be burnt about 1,000 times over for everything you just said, right? But we
Absolutely. Or my late husband always used to say, well, there'll be a cold place in hell for me.
A cold place in hell for you, correct. Right. And here's what I want to get into with regard to witchcraft and so on. There has been a recent trend for women who are trying to get into witchcraft. They're breaking off pieces of witchcraft and reforming it, which is absolutely fine. But witchcraft has suddenly become this over-sexualized practice.
Yes.
This over-sexualized practice. And I keep telling people, if you're going to actually become a real witch, it's harder than doing a PhD.
Oh,
It'll take longer than doing a PhD. If you had to go to a witchcraft school, yes, I actually went to one because I was curious. But anyway, you have to learn divination. You got to learn herbology. You got to learn scrying. You got to learn. These are like, you are not going to stop learning, and you got to learn to do them correctly.
It is every day you learn something new, whether by reading, by practicing. Like, oops, maybe I shouldn't have burned that. It smells really bad. Like, and it's
And here's the thing. Right? When I lived in California, I lived amongst witches. So there was this. They discovered, I should say, because I don't do drugs, that spices actually have a narcotic effect. A lot of people don't know that. Oh, did I just say that on the show? Oh no. Now there'll be a nutmeg shortage in certain parts of the world watching this broadcast. But anyway, as I was saying, there is a there is a lot that you have to learn. This is not a witchcraft by weekend. So
No,
you can't
absolutely
do
not.
that.
There
But
is, and I'm still learning. Like, I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I know maybe one pinch of what needs to be known.
oh, Donna, how long have you been doing this? Tell them.
Um, in earnest, I have been doing this since, oh gee whiz, since my late 20s. But again, before that, I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was doing it. And I was able to do it.
So
And it's the
natural.
simple thing. It was just a natural thing for me. It was like I would make a wish and it would come true.
Mhm.
I would, and again, those types of things are spells. Picking up a dandelion, the seeds, and blowing that out and making your wish and blowing it out into the world. That's a spell. Blowing out birthday candles on your birthday cake. That's a spell. Making your wish when you blow out the birthday candles. And again, that's the simplest, the most juvenile. No, juvenile is not the word I'm looking for because that sounds dismissive.
Elementary.
Thank you. That is the most elementary form of witchcraft, is blowing out the candles on your birthday cake or blowing the seeds from the dandelion to the world and making the wish.
Excellent. I wanted to speak to this over sexualization of witchcraft. Where is that coming from? I understand. I think people associate witchcraft with freedom, and freedom somehow always manifests itself into sexuality. There is another reason that I want to bring up here. Sex magic is the easiest magic.
And it is very powerful.
Yeah, but people don't usually know how to use it very well, so they actually just overuse sex magic because it's easy to access. You don't need any special skills. You just need to hold something in your mind, and that's it, right? But the over sexualization of witchcraft, is that a good trend? Because it actually feeds stereotypes.
But it's taking it again. They've lost the balance, right? From the point of time where witches were considered ugly old hags, right? So then to take away from that to that not all witches are ugly old hags who live in the forest and have chin hairs, and warts on their nose. So to take it the other extreme, to be extremely sexualized with very curvy, very voluptuous, and so again, it's the other extreme. But to find that balance, so it's they've gone the other extreme, from the ugly old hag to the very sexy woman or the very sexy person.
Okay, so we have different denominations of witchcraft, like we have different denominations of Christianity.
Absolutely, we do.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through them for the audience. Witchcraft has different denominations, such as the Alexandrians are a sect of witchcraft. There's Saxon witches, Sayax Wicca is another religion, Gardnerians and so on from Gerald Gardner. And so if somebody wanted to become a witch, what would be your prescription in terms of the path that they should start from?
See, that's a difficult question for me to answer, only because you can follow many paths, right?
Mhm.
Again, that whole syncretic thing. Like, I incorporate Wiccan in my practice. I incorporate Christianity in my practice. So I would start. So what resonates with you, what sounds right to you,
Mhm.
right? So read, like, read. Go to the library. There are a lot of great websites that offer free PDFs in material. There's sacred texts. There's Human, and just key in your search and start reading and go down that rabbit hole,
Mhm.
and find what suits you and find what fits your in your skin.
Excellent. And so one of the things that I was actually impressed at when I walked into your store, never told you this, but I'm going to tell you this on a live broadcast, not quite sure why. One of the things that I want to is that I saw your altar and I'm like, oh, this is a real one. So can you give some people some tips on how to erect altars?
The altar that I have that keeps changing. It's mutable. It changes with people have given me things that resonate with me, and it feels good on my altar. Find things that, okay, so have your things that represent earth, air, and that's the other thing we need to talk about is the pentagram and the pentacle.
Correct. Yep.
Things that represent the elements, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. Put those on your altar as sort of a beginning, right? So you've got incense to represent air. You've got actually dual representation of air and fire. A little bowl of water to represent fire, or a shell to represent water. Those kinds of things. Like,
make sure the elements are represented. That's the first thing that you absolutely have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The elements are represented. If there's a deity or a number of deities that resonate with you, sure, put their images, their likenesses on your altar. The pentacle and pentagram, to me, are a key element. They need to be there because here again, I've got notes for that. The pentagram. Okay, so here we go. The pentacle is enclosed in a circle, right? So the star in the circle represents earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, and the circle around it is as above, so it is below. Mm-hmm. Right? So as within, so without. Mm-hmm. Right? So it encompasses and keeps all of those elements together. And the pentagram is just the star, and that symbolizes the north, south, east, west, and the spirit, and it symbolizes the earth. Mm-hmm. And again, with the inverted pentagram, the 5-pointed forming a goat's head, which symbolizes the physical elements of the earth dominating the spiritual aspects of the earth.
Okay, so for those of you who have seen it in satanic rituals, the symbol in and of itself, they've taken it and they've warped it, but then what hasn't? Satanism.
And it can also represent the horned gods. Pan, Satyr, the Green Man. Mm-hmm.
Robin Goodfellow as well. Yeah. So, yes. So in terms of the inversion and people associating witchcraft, it was actually in that film with Satanism and demon worship. What does Donna say to that?
Again, the Christian aspect of me, like demons were demonized, right? They're the fallen angels. They're the bad ones. They're the ones that are going to hurt you. They're the ones that are going to lead you astray. Mm-hmm. But again, Satan was one of God's sidekicks, right? He was tossed out because whatever he did, right?
A slight disagreement over policy issues.
Yeah,
he was fired. He was fired.
Again, it's the balance of light and dark. Right, and again with the articulation of it, right, and then the Christianization of demons, and of course bad shit happens to people. Right, it's going to happen. You can't go through life and grow without something going wrong, right? So you're going to blame it on the devil, right? The devil made me do it, right? You got to have somebody to blame.
Yeah, the devil at my homework too. All right. This is some of the stuff that has come up in terms of people's condemnation of the craft. And we want to get into some definitions here right at this point. So the word witchcraft, you want to tell people what that actually means?
The etymology of the word witch is really wise woman. Like it was W-I-C-C-A, W-I-C-C-E, and depending on the language you were using.
Yeah.
Right?
The Celts actually broke it down into Witan, which is the people who used to...
male and female, to separate the gender.
Yeah, correct. And they were advisors too, huh?
Neutral.
They were advisors to kings and so on. I want to just make...
Here's my theory about that.
Tell me.
Okay, so the etymology of the word pagan, which is that broad umbrella that covers us all, right, was country folk. Those are the people that were uneducated, right?
Correct,
they just did what they weren't able to read, they weren't able to write. They did what they were taught, the things that their grandparents taught them and things. And that, and going out under the moon and making your brew so that the cows will be able to give you milk. But then of course you always have those people that are a little on the power hungry side, right?
Correct.
Right. So what better way to baffle the rich and the royalty, right? We'll come in, we'll wear our royal gold robes, we'll wear our robes, and we'll wave our wands, and presto chango, there you are, you have all the power that you want, right? But that was all bafflegown. To me, I think that was what it was. It was just to,
No. I'm with you because I have, Joseph, I absolutely agree with you, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a mythical figure which people keep referring to, Merlin. What
Yes.
wizard are we talking about? He was a witch. He was a witch.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
He was a witch. And this is what actually is something that I want to actually go through the whole of history. People mislabeling people. So Merlin was a witch. Witch
Yes.
trained, definitely. Okay?
Absolutely.
And the whole advising King Arthur and all of that, it could be allegorical, but we know for certain, based on what the stories say and the fables and the fiction, that that individual was definitely a witch, not a wizard or anything else, or magician or whatever. That individual definitely was a witch because he came from very rural backgrounds and so on.
Absolutely.
There's another point that I would like to make on what you just said. And the other point was that people who were in the country lived naturally, and there is a wisdom that comes off of living off the land. I have come to understand. And I have come to understand it because I've spent time in remote Canada. And I understand now that if you live on the land, you develop a secondary level of wisdom that has nothing to do with anything that you read in a book. You just know.
You learn to read the plants, you learn to read the weather, you learn to read the animals around you, right? You know that your animal is getting sick because the way its eyes look, the way it's carrying itself, you know that. So it really does. It comes from being rural.
Agreed. And I honestly have to give you guys props. People who live in rural areas who are not all caught up with the big city life and so on, there is a clarity with them that you will not find in big cities. And that clarity, it's almost like a sentience between people. I think that when places become very developed, they lose contact with nature.
Yes.
And the personal power of people becomes sublimated beneath this veneer of power from going to get the job, and you're upwardly mobile and stuff like that, and the personal power becomes sublimated and pushed down as a result of it. And that is part of the balance that you were talking about earlier on. Okay.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to maintain practice. So I want to talk about solitary witchcraft for a moment, because that's always a thing. All right. You are not Wiccan, but you identify as a witch.
Yes.
And so that would make you a very much a solitary witch, wouldn't it?
Absolutely it is.
So how's that working for you?
Sorry?
How's that working for you?
I'm very comfortable with it. I find that I don't, there's times that I will consult with peers or with colleagues about something that I'm not 100% sure that I might, is this the right thing? Do you think I'm doing? I will consult. However, I'm very comfortable in my solitary practice. I just find that my power grows more so when I'm alone at home with my altar, and I'm doing whatever manifestation I'm doing under the full moon, and I can absolutely connect more thoroughly to the moon power, to the moon energy.
Understood.
And again, there are times when you really have to have that collective energy, right, to raise that collective energy. So like working with I've worked with other people, but not as on a coven basis. And again, that word just bothers me.
Why does it bother you, Donna?
Again, it's one of those words things that, like, ooh, you're in a coven, woo, it's the connotation that's been attached to it.
Agreed.
So
It's like how I feel about secret societies. Correct. I understand why there's an elitism of belonging to a
yeah,
coven.
absolutely. And we're not, we shouldn't be elite,
Hmm.
right? Because we're not. We're Earth women and we're Earth people. And again, this analogy was pointed out to me, and I have heard, it's we're each a tree in the forest. Each tree has its position in the forest, but together we work as the forest.
Point well taken, and very, very good analogy, actually. And I wish a lot for those of you watching this broadcast, play the last 10 seconds back and listen to this again, because every tree has a position in the forest. Together we are the forest. There is no tree that says, but I am the forest by myself, or group of trees that say that I'm the forest by myself. It's a bunch of nonsense at the end of the day. And I think humanity needs to understand the forest analogy a little bit more. There's one thing that I would like to cover here, and that is the concept of hand fasting, which is everybody seems to equate it to Christian marriage, which that hurts. Just even saying it is disturbing to me. Why hand fasting is not marriage? You want to tell people the difference between hand fasting and marriage?
Hand fasting is the unity of two beings, and it's not, not placing one above the other. It's the unity of two beings and they're sharing their love with the rest of their friends' family. Whereas a Christian wedding marriage always places the men in the superior position.
But Donna,
Right?
you were made from a rib that's at the side of my body.
You can cut this out, and I'm gonna say fuck off.
I love it. No, I'm keeping that in. I'm keeping that in like hell.
I'm descended from Lilith, not Eve.
Thank you so much for that. Actually, that was awesome. Okay, so with regard to Christian marriage, I think what happens is that it actually bothers me as well. Every time I hear you promise to obey and be faithful and all of those things, and it's usually going in the direction of the woman, and
Yes.
the man doesn't have to say I promise to obey or any of that nonsense. He just has to promise to take care of her and love her in good times and in bad,
Yeah,
which
and
is
make sure
funny.
he has a nice, lovely kitchen and lovely aprons to wear and all the accoutrements of keeping a nice house, so that when he comes home, she can bring him his slippers and his pipe and his newspaper and have his meal ready for him on the table. Like that.
It doesn't drop. It's like annoying. It's annoying as hell to look at and to actually see it. And I've gone to probably I haven't gone to too many weddings because of that, but I've gone to a lot of hand fasting ceremonies. Okay. And there's a totally different feel there. There is a togetherness and so on. So I just want to make a critique here.
Of tears.
Yes, I just want to make this. I just want to make this clear so that people understand that hand fasting in witchcraft is not the same as marriage. And for those of you who want equanimity, who want equality, the hand fasting route is usually the way to go. And just so that we're clear, there's some traditions where hand fasting lasts a year and a day. So
yes, absolutely it does.
So imagine getting married on a trial basis. Now, I'm sure a lot of you listening to this,
Such a bad idea.
it wasn't a bad idea at all, right? Because here's the thing, if hand fasting was adopted all over the world, you can be damn sure that the people who are married actually care about each other.
Absolutely. And they want to be, it's that, again, it's the equality. It's and I'm going to use this as a for instance in the relationship I had with my late husband. He stayed home and took care of the house. I went out to work. And,
Damn.
And
you're still going out to work.
I worked at Canadian Tire. I'd go out to the office every day and come home and we'd cook a meal together. But he, during the day, he'd, make sure the house I mean, it's not that, oh my God, you gotta, I didn't have, it worked for us. He came, he would take care of everything at the home, and I would go out and earn our keep.
And this is not to put any man down. That is honorable in the sense that,
And it was wonderful. He was like, oh my God, it was the best feeling. Like, I saw my mother's marriage. I saw my parents, how, and how oppressed. My dad wouldn't let my mother vote because she might vote differently than him. And that would negate his vote. Right. So, again, there's another analogy of what that Christian marriage sort of means.
understood. That actually is I just want to put these facts out there, because a lot of people don't know what hand fasting is, and for some people you would have never heard this term. It is a unity of souls, and in some traditions it lasts a year and a day, which actually might be the best thing ever, because if you're married for 5-6 years, you actually want to be together. You are not together because of some piece of paper, right?
Exactly.
And a lot of people's marriages are exactly like that. So for those of you who are married or getting divorced, next time around, hand fasting. Hand fasting for sure.
Absolutely.
There's one more thing that I actually want to tackle with regard to witchcraft. We've already tackled the education and the hand fasting and the over sexualizations and stuff like that. And that is the symbology of witchcraft. So most witches usually wear a pentacle around the neck, symbolizing, as you said, the universe and man's connection with the universe and the 5 elements. If you are practicing witch, what are the typical tools that you would normally use? Like just a basic tool set for witches.
Okay, so from the Wiccan aspect, the wand and the athame, which is the knife. Okay, those are 2 tools that are sort of integral to their practice. I like them because, well, the wand represents the extension of your power, right? So you're holding your wand out, and it will extend your power. It just sort of forces it out. The athame for cutting, like if you need to cut a cord because something is not going correctly, so you want to cut that cord and banish that aspect that isn't going the way it should. Right, so those are some key tools that Wiccans use. I don't like the athame because to me it has too many violent connotations to it, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Because
so I don't.
Yeah, go ahead. Because it was also used as a weapon a lot of the times.
Yes, absolutely, and for me, I try to avoid any type of violence. I might have a violent vocabulary, but deep down inside, I have more violence. But
go ahead.
But and tools, candles are very important too, because those they will contain your intentions when you're manifesting. So candle magic probably is much simpler than sex magic.
Yes, and a lot of people think that candle magic is you simply put a candle there and you burn it. Can you give them some basic education on candle magic, please?
Okay, so what you do with your candle magic is you can infuse it with your intentions. You can infuse it with it's a focal point, right? So your intention coming from the pineal gland or your third eye is being focused on that flame, which will throw it out to the universe and make it known to the universe that this is what you require. So you can, candles that are charged for specific purposes, and that again, there's another class right there charging candles for specific purposes. But the candle is meant for something like drawing money, drawing love, for protection. You're focusing on those intentions, right, and putting those out to the universe. And I find that the flame, for me, is the thing that really sends it to the universe.
Understood. These tools are also the tools that are used in Christian mysticism as well. So,
Yes.
Have you ever been to a church without candles?
No, I have not.
Not recently. Definitely not the Catholic Church, and definitely not the Anglican Church. Okay.
Oh, absolutely not Catholic Church.
Have you ever been to a church without incense? Actually, they have cornered the market on incense. They got cool incense burners, sensors that you just
And
swing.
the specific incense that especially the Catholic Church uses is copal. They also use frankincense and myrrh at
Mhm.
Christmas time because those were apparently the gifts that were given to the baby Jesus,
Hmm.
right? Because they were very expensive, right? So there we go with that. But those are typically the incenses. But again, if you can use the and smoke is a cleanser, right? Smoke cleanses.
Hmm.
When you're breathing, you have that smoke come over you. If that's what it's really intended for, is for cleansing away. Again, during the time of the plague, they would take burning herbs into homes to kill the bacteria that caused the plague.
Correct.
So
Correct. So for smudging and using sage as a smudge tool as well, that was used by very primitive peoples for many,
yes,
many, many years. Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of ritualistic work and casting circles and so on, which is the ritualistic aspect, a lot of
So
people want to get into ritualistic work immediately. Is that advised?
no, I'd start out slow. I mean, you can start your rituals very tiny, right? Like again, every morning I come in and I cast a circle around the shop and ask the shop to bring us abundance for the day. I speak to the elements and I invite the elements in. I speak to the deities that like thank them for what they have done for me the day before.
Hmm.
Right, so that in itself is a ritual. Again, waking up in the morning and stirring your coffee clockwise is a ritual. Right, you're having a good day. Having your shower every morning is a ritual. Right, cleansing yourself of the nights, whatever you gathered through the night.
Exactly. And
So
well,
I mean, if you're going to do the big, the big elaborate rituals and the big elaborate ceremonies, I wouldn't start there. Start something simple, right? Like thanking the universe for your food,
okay.
right? Being thankful, and it's more gratitude than anything. That's a really, really simple type of ritual.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Yesterday I was giving a webinar on business manifestation as well as business tactics and so on, and it was brought up to me the concept of psychic vampirism. As a witch, you're going to be faced with that from human beings and from what people believe to be entities as well. How does a witch protect herself or himself from psychic vampirism?
Well, first is being aware of it.
Hmm.
Right, like, and you will be aware of it when you start feeling like you're being sapped of your energy, you're being drained, you're like you're just tired all the time. You know that something is going on.
Hmm.
One of the things that I recommend that people do in those situations, and again, this comes from my folk magic aspect, is taking a raw egg and using that egg to draw out anything that has been placed on you.
Hmm.
And then breaking that egg to ensure it. You check for anomalies in the yolk, you check for anomalies in the white, and then do it again, right? If there are any anomalies, flush it away, do it again, and then and then for protection, doing a smoke cleanse,
Hmm.
having salt baths is a way of wearing your pentagram, carrying crystals, carrying. Let me see, what have I got in my pockets today?
Or you just
Uh,
carry crystals?
yeah, I've got a little bottle of protection herbs. I've got in my little pouch here. I've got. Oh my goodness, I have some more water, which is protective. I've got crystals. I've got my pendulum. I've got my husband, a tooth from my husband.
Yeah, not definitely. This is a real witch, right? So I thank you so much, Donna. We've come to the end of our interview, but I want you to tell these people or give these people a way to contact you. You are running a store called the Broom Closet, and it's a beautiful store. It's in Regina, Saskatchewan. For those of you who are going to be traveling around this way, stop in at Donna's place. In fact, if you land in Canada, I don't care what part of Canada, come and stop it in Donna's place. So the first thing that I want to ask is you want to give these people a way to contact you?
Right. First, I'll give you our location. We're located at 1811 Quebec Street in Regina. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Jessup's General Store is the person I've partnered up with, and she's amazing. She's an incredible artist. And
she makes those.
She does. She makes amazing stuff. But yes, you can contact, find us on Facebook, and the one in Regina, not the one in Memphis. Okay.
Yeah, that's a little out of your way. All right. And Donna and Carly, who is a partner, Carly actually makes stuff, merch like what I'm wearing right now. This is Jessup's General Store, if you have seen it, and it wears very well. I like this shirt. It's nice and warm. And you guys can contact Donna if it is that y'all want to find out a little bit more about witchcraft. Don't flood her inbox, but I'm quite sure she'll be.
Come on. I love talking to people in person. I just find digital communication kind of off-putting to some degree. And David, because I know you, I'm comfortable.
All right, guys. If you want to contact Donna, contact her via email or walk into her store one day.
Absolutely. Come on in. We'd be happy to see you. And hugs are free, and smiles are free, and giggles are absolutely the best.
And that's why I go there all the time, everyone. Okay, guys, it's been fun. Donna, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Oh, thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure.